I wanted to give a quick little video about why I won't recommend Clinton Anderson for horse trainers anymore. I used to like Clinton Anderson a lot, but after watching tons and tons of horse trainers to learn things myself, because every time I ran into a problem, I would go online and find a video. I highly recommend people like Carson James, but Clinton Anderson does not make my list for two reasons. The whole point and then make your horse go is contradictory to how a horse thinks. You've essentially shut down. You raised your hand in front of the horse's face, which tells the horse not to go that way. And then because the horse doesn't go that way, you start chasing it with a whip, and you're making the horse sit there and do mental hurdles to try and figure out what you want them to do. And I don't like it. I don't think you should raise your hand. I don't think you should point. It does come in handy, and maybe you can teach it to a horse, but that's not how a horse should be started. And secondly, Clinton Anderson does a lot of stuff just for the sake of the camera, just for the sake of the show. I have gone since I've learned a lot of things, because he was one of the first trainers I've watched, and since going and doing a lot of training myself and watching a lot of other trainers and picking up stuff here and there, one of the big things I have noticed is that almost every trainer does the same exact thing. Some people are just more refined about it than others. Clinton Anderson is not refined at all about what he does, which is why he has to do such big and exorbitant things. But Anderson doesn't face the issue of all these issues with the horses are caused and created by their owners. And instead he sits there and says, this horse is a problem horse, and I'm going to jump in there and give it a cage fight. And the horses aren't really problem horses. These horses have developed issues because of how their owners have handled them. One of my favorite ones to bring up is this owner who has an aggressive horse. And in all of these little episodes, it always shows the first little clip of like the owner at home with the horse. And what you see this guy trying to do is he's trying to do the whole point and whip thing like the Anderson style, and which is telling the horse, go away, go move that way. However, when he does that, this guy is so terrified of his horse, he takes steps back. Moving away from the horse, especially while you are still facing the horse, is a very drawing motion to a horse. It's telling a horse to come here. In fact, it's how I've taught my horse how to do liberty things, and I've taught her to come to me, all of my horses. And I didn't have to do anything besides just walk backwards, and my horses naturally came to me. It's a natural thing for horses to want to go towards somebody who is backing away from them. So his body language is saying, come here, but he's saying, go there. And when the horse starts to come in, the guy did one of two things. He tried to throw a whip at it, which would understandably confuse and piss off the horse. Or two, he would just turn and run, which of course tells the horse to run too, and tells the horse is going to chase him, because the horse was already going towards him. And then the guy turned and ran, which tells the horse to chase him. And then the guy would dive through a fence. And so this horse gets labeled as aggressive. And I think this horse probably wasn't aggressive before this owner had him and before the owner did all this. And I think it was a mare, and this is all very apparent in the video of the owner, like in the pasture with his horse. It's extremely apparent. Anderson doesn't acknowledge any of this. He doesn't acknowledge that this horse probably isn't actually a very aggressive horse. I think this horse has been going through this issue for months, of where the guy says, come towards me, but go away. Come towards me, but go away. Come towards me, but go away. Don't actually come towards me, even though my body's saying come towards me. I want you to go that way instead. Which is making the horse having to do giant mental hurdles. It's extremely confusing and understandably upsetting, even to a horse. And I think by this point, this horse is probably just flat out frustrated. So Anderson instead just sits there and says, this horse is really dangerous. I'm going to get in there and it's going to be a cage fight. That's his words. And it's slightly paraphrased, but he did literally say it's going to be a cage fight. So the first thing he gets in there, what he does is like, if I got in there I would try my way without the pointing, without moving my feet, remaining firm where I am standing, and maybe even moving towards the horse to drive it away. That's how I would start. If the horse tried to run me over, I might give it a quick whack in the shoulder with like the stick of my training flag, but that would be probably the extent of what I would need to do, because this horse actually seemed to be a very sensitive horse, a very in-tune horse. But that's how I would have started. Instead, Anderson hops in there and immediately goes to whipping the hell out of this horse's rear to get him to run. He'll run. And a horse can run in circles around you all damn day and not ever once pay attention to you and not ever once get in tune to you. And it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, because that didn't need to happen. And literally the only explanation for it is that Anderson was doing it for the cameras. He was doing it to provide entertainment in a show, me versus the horse. And it didn't have to be him versus the horse. It didn't have to be him against the horse or the horse against him. It could have been him going in there and solving the issues a horse had, created and developed by his owner. And that's why I won't really recommend Anderson anymore, because some of his very basic things work against a horse's actual way of thinking. But two, because he overdoes things and he goes in and he fights horses, and that's what he's teaching people to do, is to go in and fight a horse. He calls it natural horsemanship, but if you want to see natural horsemanship, I would recommend people like Carson James. It's this other guy, I can't remember his name for the life of me. I absolutely love it. He has a seminar, which hopefully I will try to find the link to and maybe post it in the comments of this video. But he has a video of a seminar he does where he explains horses who crowd and why they crowd, the mental thoughts behind it, and why horses don't crowd other horses, but why horses will crowd people, and the mental thinking behind people who allow horses to crowd them and how to fix them. And he fixes a horse who is crowding like this. Boom, and the horse is done. And the horse isn't crowding him. He isn't running off. He isn't spooky. He isn't out of his mind crazy anymore. Just boom, done. And that is natural horsemanship, because he is taking everything about how people think and about how the horses think, and he's explaining it, and he is taking all of that into consideration when he decides how to work with the horse. And that is natural horsemanship. Running in there with a whip and whacking the holy living hell out of your horse into submission is not natural horsemanship. It's a step up from the old cowboy way of just hopping on an unbroke horse and then just riding the buck out of it. So, no, I don't suggest Anderson. Not to anybody, not to a newcomer. He might have a few things to offer, but you can find the same things with a slightly gentler touch to it anywhere on YouTube. Or other trainers like Carson James, who I highly suggest you, don't waste your money on Clinton Anderson DVDs. Go pay for the subscription for Carson James. You won't regret it.